Hello, Fairfield, and welcome to another, actually not another exciting episode, but a very special episode of Fairfield 2.0. We've got Fred Travis, who's the head of the Vedic Science Department over at MUM with us today. And I'm very honored because this guy has forgotten more knowledge than I will ever know, than any of us will ever know in our lives. But the stuff he remembers is amazing. Not that you've forgotten anything, but this is really a treat for me, Fred.
It's great to be here, Mike.
Thank you. All right, we should probably. I was told by David Hawthorne that I should start shows sometimes with tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'm going to experiment on you if you don't mind.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Surely. Probably the most important point is born on a mountaintop in New York State. Earned my PhD in 1988. And that was in psychology, looking at psychophysiology.
So I do have a musical guest today.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, great.
Just to work it in. And so my whole focus is look at the brain to understand the mind. Look at the brain to understand consciousness. I went off and did a postdoc and looked at sleep. Why do we sleep at night?
Why do we sleep at night?
We sleep to repair the brain. And you know what it's like. If you don't get enough sleep, you wake up and everything is foggy. That's because the brain is the link between us and the world. If the brain is tired, it's actually dimming down what's coming in. If the brain is repaired from a good night's sleep, we can actually take in what's coming in.
Is it a myth then that a good night's sleep is repairing the body?
That is a myth.
Ah.
And just think, you go and you exercise. If you sleep afterwards, how do you feel?
Groggy.
Groggy, tight muscles.
Yeah.
What you need to repair the body is low non-contact activity. Lying down is good, but it's not the sleep which is doing, it's just letting the physiology be rested. To repair the body, you need food. You need protein because you have large muscle groups.
Yeah.
What happens when the brain works is every time a neuron fires to process information, it uses a small energy molecule. It's called adenosine triphosphate. And then this adenosine chemical is just sitting there around the cell. And each cell has all these receptors. And the adenosine sits in there and the cell slows down. Mm-hmm. You as if have this accountant up in your brain and it's marking every time each brain cell has fired. And that's why at the end of the day it's hard to think, it's hard to have those creative ideas because the whole brain is firing more slowly.
Now, what got you initially into studying the field of brain physiology?
This is a great story. I was getting my PhD in psychology, but I was looking at cognitive processes, information processing. I was looking at language systems and bilingual individuals. Meanwhile, my wife was working for the head of the department, and they had a grant to analyze brainwaves. And so, as it's usually done, the head of the department said, Nita, can you do this for me? My wife is extremely brilliant, extremely creative, but she couldn't get her head around these lines on the paper. And so one day she came home and said, Fred, would you like to analyze this brainwaves? And being a good husband, I said, I'd be happy to, dear.
Of course.
And then the rest is history.
Now, do you remember what that study was?
Yes, it was actually looking at the effect of a meditation technique, Transcendental meditation, in college students. It was a random assignment study. It was funded by National Institutes of Health down in Arkansas. It was with mostly African American students, and they initially tested like 40 or 50 students, and they randomly assigned some to learn Transcendental meditation and some not, and then they tested them 1 year later. And they looked at things like anxiety levels, they looked at things like alertness levels, happiness levels, success at school. And with this meditation, Transcendental meditation, it's a process of allowing the mind to settle down. Rather than being caught up in thinking and acting and doing, you can settle down to being just where the mind is awake. Mm-hmm. And what this is found to do is it changes the brain during the process, during the experience of meditation, and then also you see that brain pattern more in activity. So that just means suddenly you begin to have a wider and wider angle lens. You have more settledness and silence and inner calm that allows you to process what's out there.
Right.
So the meditating students did better. And I was, by the way, I was
needless
blind.
to say.
I was blind to group membership there, and so I just looked at the data, analyzed the data, and then at the end they told me who was who.
Were you surprised by some of the findings?
Yes. Probably the findings that have surprised me most is after my postdoc in sleep research, I came back here in 1990 to head up the brain center at Maharishi University of Management. And my first thought to come back was create a psychophysiological report card. Let's see how college has affected your brain. It's something actually which the founder of the university has suggested to do. And so I got together 30 people, and they were all of the same age. They were freshmen, sophomores at MUM. Half of them had been meditating for about 4 months, so they started just before coming to the university. This is something, I don't know if you know or if your listeners know, everyone who comes to Maharishi University of Management learns Transcendental Meditation as their first course, just because of the benefits we find for students. So that was this group. Mm-hmm. The other group of 15 had been meditating for 9 years. Now remember, these are freshmen and sophomores, so they've been meditating since they were 10. That's the earliest time you can sit down and meditate.
They learned at 10 based on their parents thinking this is going to help these kids focus and all that, or just maybe because the family was already doing it and being inclusive? How did, like...
I think it's more on the second level.
Yeah.
At the K through 12 school here, Maharishi School, the Age of Enlightenment, meditation is part of their curriculum as well, so it was just part of what they were doing. Yeah. So here's these two groups of people, same age, they were the same mix of gender. One just started to meditate at 18. One's been meditating since they were 10. And I thought, this is going to show me what happens with regular TM practice. And this was my second big surprise. There was no difference during TM. And I said the same thing, And I thought, what am I going to do? And I thought through everything that the neuroscience says about the brain. Experience changes the brain. So if you're doing something more, the brain actually changes each time that you do it. But then after looking at the data in many different ways, I thought more deeply that Transcendental meditation is a little different from other meditations. Other meditations, like loving kindness and compassion or Zen meditation, involve focus of attention. And what they do is they train you to focus your attention, and you get better at focusing attention. Mm-hmm. But you're involved in the thinking process of that.
Right.
And it involves individual ability to hold and train the mind. Other meditations like mindfulness or Vipassana meditation or even Zazen, you don't control the mind, you more just watch what's happening. It's called dispassionate observation. And what I think these meditations are doing is just allowing you to realize that you're an experiencer in the midst of an experience. That you're not your thoughts, your feelings, but rather you're having thoughts and feelings. Mm-hmm. And this also has value. But this also keeps you in the process of thinking and also involves your individual ability to think.
Versus Transcendental meditation where you're removing that process.
Exactly. And what's happening in Transcendental meditation is you're transcending, but the way you're doing it is not by individual intention, effort, evaluation. The way you're doing it, we say, is you use the natural tendency of the mind. Now, what's the natural tendency of your mind? Well, probably your mind's been moving a little bit as we've been talking here, even though you think that this is going to be a cool discussion. And this is the natural tendency of the mind. It's looking for something more. It's looking for a broader field of understanding.
I couldn't be looking for something more. This is amazing. I love that you're here. By the way, anybody just joining us now, this is Fred Travis. He's the head of the Vedic Science Department over at MUM. And But I interrupted and I apologize.
That's okay, because this is the important point. What is the natural tendency of the mind going towards more and more? Transcendental meditation, you turn the attention within and let go. Because what happens is the source of thought is full and rich with the creativity and the intelligence and the insights that you have throughout the day. And so once the mind has that direction, it just naturally settles down all by itself. That's why someone who's been meditating for 4 months or 7 years, during the meditation looks the same. The difference is inactivity. And what's found is the more that you practice this meditation technique, the more you begin to see those brainwave patterns in activity. What you're doing is you're integrating a fuller range of the mind. You're integrating deep silence, wakefulness, with ongoing focus and activity.
Mm-hmm. Have you, obviously, you've done the research on, and we talked about some of those other techniques earlier. Have you found any, I guess, honestly, another question is how beneficial are other techniques? I hate to say it like this, but there must be something about them because people do flock to them. What are some, have you found benefits or anything that comes close to Transcendental meditation?
Best way to answer that is first, yes. Everything you do affects the brain, but what you do determines its effects. So the more focused, specific activity you're doing during the day, during meditation, those are going to be the benefits. So for instance, loving kindness and compassion, where you try to create a very pure experience within. A very pure experience of an emotion not tied to an object, just pure compassion, pure love. Not tied to a friend or an object, just experience that emotion very fully. What they find is the emotional part of the brain is being used and activated, and then after meditation, the emotional system is more reactive. You're experiencing things in a richer way. Focused meditations, they find that you're better able to control the mind. So whatever you do during the meditation is what you see outside of meditation. So in that case, what you see with transcendental meditation is you're seeing the process of transcending. You're going outside of categories, outside of thoughts, outside of boundaries. You're experiencing a part of you which is whole, which is full, which is awake, which is lively, which is dynamic. And then this is what's going into activity. And because you're doing least, the range of benefits are most.
What are the categories that I guess maybe either have come out in your research or just in general are connected with practicing transcendental meditation?
Well, there's 397 published studies, so let me see.
You brought them all here, a very thin list.
The way to understand it, I think, is the quality of the knower changes. Because, if someone asks you who you are, you might say, oh, this is my name, this is my age, this is my education, this is my religion, right. This is, I'm married, unmarried, all of these things. But these are things that change. That part of you, which is the most fundamental part of you, is that part of you that wakes you up in the morning. That part of you that's awake, alert, dynamic, excited about the world. As you practice transcendental meditation, that part of you is what becomes more of who you are. Mm-hmm. So what this means, it changes your perception. You're in a situation and you walk out and a tree has fallen on your car. For some people, that would completely decimate you. But as you begin to realize, because some people identify with their car, once you begin to realize it's just another one of my possessions, and this isn't a cognitive thing, it's actually in how the brain is functioning. Mm-hmm. How your body responds to that, how your mind responds to that is different. You just take a deep breath and say, well, I'm going to have to get a ride back to work, I have to take care of insurance and so on. And at work, you can deal with what you have to do without worrying about your car. Mm-hmm. This is what's been found in science, is how you perceive a situation depends upon how that situation impacts you. Right. So as your sense of self is changing, what happens is you're beginning to see the world differently. And what's found with transcendental meditation is anxiety levels are lower. Depression is lower. Positivity is higher. Clarity of thinking, happiness is higher. Mm-hmm. Measures of self-development, self-esteem are higher. Simply because you're experiencing that higher value of who you are. In the same way, we're not disembodied brains floating through the world.
That's some of my favorite sci-fi movies.
Yeah, right. So as something is happening in the brain, something is happening to the body. As the mind is settling down to its ground state at the source of thought, and the brain actually settles down to its ground state of functioning. It's a measurement. We see alpha activity over the whole brain. The body is settling down to its ground state. We see that sympathetic activation, your fight or flight part of your body, mm-hmm. becomes more quiet. Mm-hmm. And so hypertension is less. Diabetes is less. Mm. In fact, there's 80% reduction in diseases from TM practice. And also what you see is your relationships with others are improved. Because again, dealing with another person, you're perceiving what they're doing. And most problems come up with something called attribution error. Somebody does something and you attribute why they did it. And because of that, you're not responding to what they did, but what you attribute they've done.
That's a very interesting point. I don't think most people understand that. One more time on that for these folks in the room.
Attribution error. For instance, they looked at a video of someone buying something in a shop, and the shopkeeper shortchanged the person. So that's actually what happened. And they had a group of people, and they did this in the Indian-Pakistan war. And they had a group of Pakistanis watching the video, and they were told that the shopkeeper was Indian and the customer was Pakistani. And they asked the group, why did the shopkeeper do this? Well, what they said was, again, this is attribution, that the Indians, you can't trust them. They don't respect us. And then they did the different. They had an Indian audience, and they said, what happened? Why did this happen? And they said, oh, it was just a mistake. The person was, it's an honest mistake. He was just working too quickly. And so this is a critical thing. How we attribute social interaction is how we actually respond.
Interesting. Because I think most of us go through the day attributing things in order to maybe to navigate a day, navigate the activities and things that happen during a day. It's almost like you have to tag them with especially things you can't figure out what just happened. You kind of have to give the explanation. I often, and I think maybe some people that are watching, fill in the blanks because you don't have enough information, but your mind wants to go there. Your mind wants to sort of, get the explanation, get it down solid. That's interesting.
I'm glad you brought up that point, filling up the blanks, because this is where attribution comes in. There's actually two parallel streams of processing when we see anything. One stream is just telling you what's out there. The other, and that's called the high road, and that goes to the sensory, cognitive, and you can label it, etc. Then there's a low road response. The low road goes to the primitive brain, and you get an emotional response. And what that's responding to is the pattern, responding to, this is where attributions come in, it's responding to some similarity of that experience to a past experience, and the emotion comes up, and it's added to what you actually see. So we fill in the blanks with attribution. We fill in the blanks with paradigm. We fill in the blanks with how we think a situation should go on. And this is where problems come up, because the actual thing that you experience isn't what's out there.
Right.
What's out there is your emotional response to it plus your actual cognitive response.
So it's changing the paradigm. That's the key.
It's the key, and the way you change a paradigm is with experience. Because the paradigm is a larger field of meaning making within which you're immersed. If you try to change it with words, it sounds like dogma.
Yeah.
If someone has one paradigm and you have another one, and you're trying to convince the person of your paradigm, that person is hearing your words in a different way than you're saying, and it's just dogma, this person you can't talk to, and so on. So what's important is experience. What we're doing here is vicariously giving the audience an experience. Oh, here's a dude from Maharishi University of Management. What sort of person is he? How does he think? How does he talk?
Right.
And it's letting them evaluate what are the type of people up there at the university. Oh. And what are some of the questions they ask, and are they approachable, and so on. And as these experiences happen, and then paradigms happen.
Interesting.
And I think on that line, I just want to thank the Fairfield community for being so open to MUM. When we first came in 1972, and you heard Maharishi University, International University, you heard people were meditating, you were legitimately scared. But over time, the integration, the town-gown relations, I think are very, very compatible, and I don't even think there's a friction now.
I was saying that I had Mayor Ed Malloy on the show to open up the second season, and he, I had the same conversation with him, and even Mike Halley, I believe. I can't remember exactly with that conversation, but it came up, the concept of, I don't see any difference. The town is so well integrated at this point, because you know what? You have another group you want to throw in there, which are the artists, the musicians, and now you've got sustainable living happening. You've got writers groups that are starting to emerge. I mean, this is the town itself cannot. You can't be just looking at a group and saying and segregating. It is one community, and we all are shopping at the same stores, and we're all with each other and saying hi to each other on the street 10 times a day, and we're all different. We're all from different backgrounds. I think this town is a wonderful melting pot. I think in some respects I like it better it's a better example than New York, because you also have international students. You have all sorts of
Yes.
people here. But I wanted to also ask you. You're ongoing with your research. You're up to something lately, sir. What are you up to lately?
Two parallel streams. One parallel stream is how the brain changes after extensive meditation practice. We talked about 7 years meditation practice. How about 24 years? And especially we're looking for people who have integrated permanently that silent depths within with ongoing activity. So the full range of the mind is available. And we found a specific brain pattern. We call it brain integration. It just means that different parts of the brain are now talking to each other. And we're just replicating that now, having people come in who've been meditating for a number of years. They're on the course we have at the university, Invincible America course, and just experience this full range of their self.
Uh-huh.
Also, so that's one stream. We have a marker that develops through meditation.
So you're doing studies on a group, that group of people right now.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this is replicating some research we did a decade ago. So this is one parallel, one stream. The parallel stream is saying, do we see this marker of brain integration in other people? Mm-hmm. You know, is what we're getting a meditation thing, or is it a human thing? And if it's a human thing, where do you see it? And so we thought, conceptually, we think that being more integrated, having more access to your inner resources will allow you to be more successful. So that's our hypothesis, and so we took successful people. Athletes, and these were Norwegian athletes who consistently placed in the top 10 over 3 consecutive years in the Olympic Games, World Games, and National Games. We compared them to athletes who did not consistently place, and the successful athletes had higher levels of brain integration than the control athletes. And they were about level of brain integration as our people have been meditating for 7 years.
What are the physics of getting these studies together? I mean, obviously, you're going back and forth between countries, etc.
It comes with collaboration. I collaborated with Oslo University and held Hurung, and also we collaborated with the National Olympic Committee there. Beautiful. With Anna Marta. It was a very close working together, and we also interviewed these individuals to find out what was different about the high-performing athletes. And what we found was, similarly, they prize physical outer activity and physical routine in their training routine. That was actually the same in both groups. What was different in the world-class performers is mental training, and specifically things that look at inner growth, holistic functioning, really these deeper levels of mental functioning that we experience during meditation. They were experiencing it through their day. They weren't meditating at all. It's just from their daily routine. It's just from their focus. It's just from everything else that they were doing. And they were having those experiences, and that supported the value of greater brain integration and greater success. We also looked at managers. Top-level managers, they've been CEOs for 18 years. Their company had continued to develop compared to middle-level managers. Same thing, top-level managers have higher levels of brain integration. And I bring this point out not to say that if you meditate, you're going to be a great athlete and a great manager.
No.
And a great TV recruiter. But that what you do is, you can see transcendental meditation is a way to just contact and access your inner resources. And then wherever you turn your attention, that's where you're going to be able to be more successful in a better way. It's another way to discover your full resources. It's another way to discover what's in this body, what's in this brain, what can I really be? You know, what's the fullest, the most that I can be?
You know, it goes back to, for me, it's always been about the thing that makes the most sense is you've got to change the paradigm because you're stuck in a whatever, and you know, everybody talks about, oh, I'm growing and the concept of evolving and growing and all this seems to me you just constantly have to be refreshing. You have to keep hitting that restart button in a lot of ways because it just seems like you have to keep letting go of a lot of the thoughts that you have about something, as we saw earlier. It just makes sense. But with these athletes and with people who are successful, etc., is there also a quality of them letting go or wanting to change the discussion, the paradigm?
Not so much paradigm. In the athletes, it's more individual, continuous improvement.
Continuous improvement, yeah. Okay.
And the point about paradigm, we can just go back to that. It's so critical because I see your paradigm is very much instantiated in brain circuits. Because your brain circuits, again, that's the link. It's telling you what's out there. And so it's as if reinforcing your paradigm. And this is where this interesting process comes in. If the brain is a link between inner and outer, which it is, and if we make decisions based on what we see through the brain, and then we have that behavior is just reinforcing the current brain circuits. So it's really easy to get into a rut.
Mm-hmm.
And the point you brought up is you have to seek new experiences. You have to look out on public radio. What are they talking about now? You have to actually access new things. You have to contact different cultures. With Transcendental Meditation, what you're doing is you're going outside of concepts. You're going outside of categories. So you're as if continually breaking whatever circuits are there and continually opening them up. In this way, as you change the brain circuits, then you can begin to naturally change the paradigm.
Using some of the research, what has happened? Now, you said this study was done about 10 years ago, the one that you're working on now. Have you been noticing a little different readings happening from... Or is it too early? Or is it too
I'll
early
come back
in
in
the
6 months and tell you.
Okay, so you've really just started this up again.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have about 25 people so far who've come in. And then we have to get our comparison groups, and so we really see what's there.
Do you have a goal? Are you looking at the end result in a way where you think you have a prediction of what's there, or are you just totally open to reading the research and seeing what the end result was?
Doing both.
Oh.
You have to be hypothesis-driven in science, but you also have to be open to the data. So we've done something 10 years ago. We used 9 sensors on the head. Now we have 32 sensors.
Oh, there's
We're also looking at breath rate. We're looking at heart rate. Looking at heart rate variability. And so we know where to look, and so we're going to look there. But also we're open to different patterns that will change as well.
And technologies have changed, so you'll be able to analyze a little maybe better or differently than before.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
What would you say is the hardest? What is an obstacle for someone who they want to change their current lifestyle paradigm, etc., and they can't seem to get out of that rut? I have a feeling what's coming. Well, it's back to Transcendental Meditation, but have you found that that's the common denominator for most people that are looking this way? It's like they have to make it you have to get to that point where it's like, man, I need to do this thing. I heard TM is really good, or I heard whatever. There needs to be some acknowledgement or in order to get over that hurdle. And if they're stuck in that rut, how do they get over the hurdle? You know what I mean? It's almost chicken and egg.
Yeah. You have to realize you want to do something else. It could simply be, I'm going to start exercising 30 minutes. I'm going to start going to bed on time. I'm going to be aware of what my food intake is. I'm not going to just mindlessly watch television. I'm going to watch very specific shows. I'm going to explore different things I've never explored. I'm going to go to a mosque. What is it like being in a mosque? What is it like being in a temple? I've never been in either one. And so the decision has to come from inside. And with Transcendental Meditation, I think it helps you become more in touch with who you are inside, and so that you can begin to take those next steps. And those next steps, there's an acronym, FEED, is what you want to do. First, you have to focus. What do you want to do? You have to decide what it is. And then you have to be effortful. You have to put attention in that. Because what you're doing is you're changing brain circuits. And you just have to do it over and over. They don't change overnight. They'll change a little bit every time you do it. So it has to be effortful. You have to put attention in it until it becomes effortless, until that just is the way you do it. And it all just takes determination. The nice thing about Transcendental Meditation is it's easy to do, and so the determination and the effortful, they don't really play a part. It's just a matter of practicing it twice, morning and afternoon. And what you're doing is giving your body and brain and mind a whole new experience of yourself, of being completely quiet. I mean, it's so nice after a day of reading scientific journals and talking to people and talking with students to just settle down and just experience that you're full and you're whole and you're complete and you're quiet and you're calm and you're vital and you're alert and you're dynamic. And then you open your eyes and you come into activity. And activity it's like starting the day all over again. I love it as a parent. I come home at night, meditate, and I come out, it's like starting the day all over again. I can play with the kids. I can laugh with them. I can roll on the floor. It's great.
I have another suggestion in case for those who maybe don't want to learn Transcendental Meditation, which would be, is there any way we can easily remove the amygdala? Just get rid of it.
The amygdala is important. It tags experience that you want to remember. The problem is
right.
when there's a traumatic experience, it gets completely turned on. That's what happens in post-traumatic stress disorder. Amygdala's permanently turned on, and suddenly everything is out of control. Everything is tinged with fear. And it's interesting. We've had 4 studies now on TM practice and PTSD. TM seems to just switch the amygdala off. The benefits you see happen really quickly, like in days and weeks, rather than months and years. Because experience changes the brain. Trauma has turned on the amygdala. Transcending turns it off. It's the exact opposite experience of a traumatic experience. Rather than disconnected and fragmented of traumatic experience, it's whole and complete, the transcendent. Rather than being completely out of control in the traumatic experience, you're completely in control and transcending. And I think this is why the effects of transcendental meditation are so strong and immediate on PTSD.
Nuts. And I was going to ask you about that too. There's a lot of research and a lot of, I guess there's a lot of free teaching going on to soldiers that are coming back with stress disorders. Has there been any specific research done on that group?
There has a small pilot study with 5 subjects was done by Norman Rosenthal. It was published about 2 years ago. There's 2 ongoing studies with Department of Defense. Both of them are multimodal interventions, so they're looking at transcendental meditation as well as mindfulness meditation, as well as other techniques. We have a study with refugees in Africa. We look at the soldiers, but what about the civilians caught in the middle? And this was in Uganda, and random assignment study, and in 30 days, their symptoms went from very severe PDS symptoms to asymptomatic. They were no longer having PDS with TM practice. And so the research is beginning to come out, because this is, I'm glad you brought it up, because it's a responsibility we have to the men and women that we've asked to go into the armed forces. Yeah. And I see that the armed forces are taking their responsibility in a very sincere way, and they're looking at all possible modalities to try to help.
Yeah, that's a change. I guess they haven't been looking in those directions for the longest time. They had an old paradigm.
Exactly.
All right, I guess we should wrap it up now. This half-hour flew. We have to have you back, and maybe often. We of course have been talking with Fred Travis, the head of the Vedic Science Department over at MUM. And really, this was a pleasure. A very special episode, you might say. And do come back, like I said. And especially, you're going to be going to Europe to further...
Well, I'm actually going to Mongolia next week.
Okay.
Then to Germany in March, and then I'll probably be going on to Korea after that. So maybe I'll come in. I should have some more data, and we can talk about some things.
That's right. We could do it like a home movies. We could have the slideshow and the whole thing.
Well, thank you very much.
This has been really wonderful.
I've enjoyed it too.
Okay, stay tuned. We're going to have a little music for you coming up next. Oh, hello, Fairfield. Welcome back to a continued exciting episode, a very special episode of Fairfield 2.0. And right now we have got the wonderful, the magnificent Madeline Hesse here. Yay!
Why, thank you.
Madeline, David Hawthorne, this is for you. Tell us a little something about yourself.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Princeton, New Jersey, home of the farmland that's turning into townhouses.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've done some traveling farming, and that's been exciting.
You've done some traveling
while farming.
While farming.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Okay. So I started out in Appalachia, which met some bluegrass musicians and fell in love with the crystals and the soil and the quirky townspeople. Nice. And then I went out to the desert in New Mexico and utterly fell in love with the land and the people and the smell of the land.
Right.
Actually.
And then from there, where'd you go?
The colors. That's actually was the extent of my traveling. I kind of stayed really in long term sort of for a farm. Yeah. I wanted to get the whole experience of the seasons.
Now, how did you? Well, so you went there. It's almost a sustainable living type of experience that you were having.
Yes,
right?
Definitely off the grid to some extent, or working towards it. One was an organic biodynamic farm. We did a vegetable CSA. It was a lot of hard work. It taught me a lot of things about myself.
What'd you learn about yourself?
Well, I I learned that I love kids. I was really reflecting on, my path and where I wanted to go. I learned that I love physical labor and that it's important for me to be active in my life.
Work out. Better than the gym.
Yeah, totally. I recommend the outdoors over the gym.
Are there sports that you do outdoors? I mean, bike riding or anything like
that? I do bike ride. Nice. I like to hike and camp and I did canoeing. We just came back from base camp, so I'm full of the woods here.
Now, base camp meaning you're going to. We interviewed Fred Travis earlier, and Fred Travis is from MUM. So, was there any connection there? Is MUM what you're talking about?
It is what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
I am a first year there, so they require us to go out in the wilderness together as a group, and they provide all sorts of fun activities.
Cool. Did you? How did you discover Fairfield?
Yeah, I found it through MUM. They had a little Facebook ad, and that just caught my eye, and I fell in love.
Here you are. So, being where you are, what is it about Fairfield? Are there some things about it that are like cooler than other places?
Oh, definitely. I think today was a great example of that. I was kind of just moseying around, and I found some places that I hadn't seen before, and I love the look of the buildings, and
the architecture and the painting that's been going on lately, the sort of restoration.
Yes, yeah, it's great to see that people invest in the culture of it, the history behind it.
You know what's interesting is if you go to some towns and you see the type of square that we have, for instance, our town square. I don't know where I'm pointing. That way. Our town square is so well kept, and it's so it's just beautiful compared to the exact same model when you go to some other towns. You go to some other towns, it's dreary, it's run down.
Right.
And I think that says a lot for Fairfield. I think it says that there's so much energy here. There's so much the word. I don't want to sound all new agey with positivity, but it does seem like everybody is invested in the town, and from that you get this sort of care about both what the buildings look like, how people act towards one another, and all that. What have you found? Have you found anything different about the people here versus other places?
Yeah, I feel like they're open, and I've said this before. Like in the desert, it was the same sort of thing, and there's this open sky, and there's an open sky here. I really do believe that the land shapes the people that live here. And I think with the activity of meditation going on, it lends a sort of warmth of spirit and a generosity that people are really just laid back and just if you see someone, they'll want to get to know you. They're actually interested in you and where you are right now.
Speaking of where you are right now, anybody who's joining us, we are talking with Madeline Hesse, who has a guitar with her and a couple of tea bags, I think, that are hanging from the end.
Oh, no. These aren't tea bags, Mike. They are new tags.
Oh.
This is a new guitar.
A new guitar?
It's on loan from Dave's Music Shop.
Dave's Music Shop. Dave is somebody we have to have on the show. Hi, Dave. That'll be a trip. We'll have him have all the instruments and stuff, and actually maybe play a couple things. But his he's sort of it as far as the Center for Music in town. Did you, when you went in there for the first time, did you gravitate towards any particular? You guys are all pals now, right?
We get each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but the story. What was your first thoughts like when you went into Dave's?
It was great. I was really surprised by how many guitars he has.
Yeah.
Wide selection, and even the music selection, the strings he has a great stock. Yeah, the books.
I'm pretty surprised what kind of stuff he has there. So and also the generosity, he let you borrow this.
That's right. Yeah, he trusted me.
Dave.
Way to go.
Very trusting man. I want to ask you about your musical history, since there was a guitar sitting in your lap here.
So my mom, she taught piano. So when I was 5, I started piano lessons, and from there I learned flute in 4th grade or whenever they kind of make you learn the instrument.
The traditional way, learn it.
Right, yeah, but I loved it. I still play my flute, and I picked up guitar when I was exiting high school about 6 years ago, and I really love. It's a lot different. I'm totally self-taught on it. It's it's more to me intuitive, whereas piano, when I sit down, there's an intuition to it, but there's also this sort of math brain that comes in. And
there were 88 keys. How could you not? It's like, oh my god.
Right, and it's in front of you too. You can see the patterns. Where the patterns here are more kind of circular. It's more.
It's almost more of a, well, I guess it can be argued there's a physical thing going on that could be circular with the keyboard too, but with the guitar, I know it's just a totally different thought.
Mindset.
It's almost, it seems like it's a guitar might be a little more intuitive. A stringed instrument might be a little more intuitive than the keyboard instruments. Although a piano, let's say, is a stringed instrument technically,
but it's percussive at the same time. So you're being kind of exact. You don't have control over the vibration of the string. You have control through a mechanism.
Right.
Whereas here it's direct touch.
What were some of your first songs that you learned on guitar?
I didn't really learn any covers actually.
Okay.
I maybe tried a couple, and then I was kind of like, well, I'll just kind of mess around. And
so you started writing your own things immediately on guitar?
Pretty much, yes.
Are there songs which are more specific to guitar than piano? In other words, or can you play them on both instruments?
I've tried transposing some guitar pieces to piano, and it doesn't feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
It comes out a little bit differently, but. And some I couldn't really imagine, because it's just like the rhythm that you can get on a guitar it's not like what I can do on piano, and vice versa.
I want to start probing into the creative part of Madeline Hesse here. What do you do as far as, well, first of all, wait, how are your calluses coming?
Oh yeah, they're pretty they're very small right now. I just did some playing today. I haven't had a guitar to play of my own for a while, so
So today you'll be developing your calluses further.
I will be, yes.
Okay. But what is your creative process? Well, you're a songwriter.
I'm a songwriter, yeah.
How does that work?
It works a number of ways, actually. Sometimes I'll get a line of lyric in my head, and sometimes it'll come with a tune, sometimes it won't. And I'll just kind of feel whether it's a guitar song or a piano song or something else song, and
so it comes into your head. I mean,
it comes. I hear it in my head. And other times, though, I kind of do it the reverse way, where I've written a poem or something, and I feel like it's adaptable to music, or it will work for music, and then I just, in my musings, when I'm just kind of messing around on an instrument, I'll find something, and then usually that won't have words, and then I'll marry the two, and
cool.
Magic happens.
Magic happens.
Yes.
How many songs do you think you have written to this point?
That's hard. I haven't really kept track.
This is big. A guess.
I guess
3,000?
30 of my own, and then
30.
maybe 5 or 10 with another person.
With other people. Now, I'm acting all coy, like we don't, know each other, but Madeline is part of a group of musicians that are getting together to do, I think it's going to either be a battle of the bands if there are enough musicians, which at the moment it's looking a little iffy, or a concert where everybody's sort of bringing in material for the first time into this group of musicians, and then have a performance based on the material that comes in, and everybody's bringing like an original that's almost unfinished. Like last night, you brought something that you felt was a little unfinished.
Yes.
Michael brought in something that was a little unfinished.
Yeah.
You guys were wild. I loved the experiments that were kind of going on.
We all kind of fed off each other and really worked well together. And you had great direction for us. I think it was definitely appreciated.
And we're not done yet. If I'm going to be a Badinsky, I'm going to go. And also, Noah and Noah and Michael. Michael John was there, and of course James Sutherin, who we have to have on the show too. Hi, James. All right, we're gonna get to the music now, but before you're performing, but before we do that, I also have one last little question about your creativity. When you're performing a song, how does that work? Is there stuff flowing? Is it oh my gosh, I have to remember my words? I mean, what's going on inside?
Yeah, usually I'm flowing. I like to, especially with my voice, I like to just kind of feel it in the moment and be with it and let that lead me where I'm going. So I won't always sing it the same way. A lot of my song, and sometimes it'll have a totally different, feeling to it. Yeah. And to me, that is it's like a song is never finished being written, really.
Interesting.
It's always evolving and always coming into being. So
That's interesting, because you know what's going to happen is when you record, you're going to take it live, and then live you're going to change it, and then years from there it's going to change over time. You're right on. The song really never stops evolving. So are you going to prove all of these theories to us by playing us a few songs?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's up to your logic and your mind.
I would be honored. Please, if you could play a few songs, that would be beautiful.
Okay. Let's do
All right, Fairfield 2.0 is the show you have been watching, and we had Fred Travis on earlier. We have Madeline Hesse on right now, and we're going to hear a few songs from her. And don't go away, but we'll kind of end the yapping part now. Thank you again for watching, and tune in real soon. And remember, this is a show that is introducing Fairfield to Fairfield, about Fairfield, et cetera, and also trying to bring this good stuff out that we've got here to the world. So hang in there. We're going to hear some Madeline Hesse music.
My name is Madeline Hesse, and I'm going to be playing for you first a song that I wrote while in the Appalachian Mountains, and it's called the Energy Consumption Song. Oh, I wandered down a lane that led me to a wandering trail, whereupon I came upon a very, very strange snail. Oh, she looked at me and said, oh, would you like for me to tell your tale? I have it all written down inside my shell. I said, might as well. Oh, hell, but first I would like to set sail. Oh. So I went out to the sea, following a gradually growing stream that trickled down the mountainside with peaks out of a giant stream. Oh, it was so beautiful, I nearly got caught in a sunbeam, reflecting light blue, purple, and green. To snatch it away would be so mean if it all were reduced to sulfur and steam. Well, stacks, smoke, and frogs croak, the Civil War has taken its toll. Attacks making life in lakes so out of control. Oh, I can't believe the woods are gone and all for the price of coal. Oh, golly. Oh, golly. Oh, good golly, Miss Molly McGuire's, would you please stand up for the ugly corporations have gone amok? We need resistance now on this earth, or else I will forever fear of giving birth. Arriving at the sea, I nearly fainted. The beasts were on the shore, the water was tainted. It cannot be, I said, our energies have been misled. Oh, where are the stewards of the watershed? Yeah, the watershed. Oh, how can I ever return to the lifestyle I ought to scorn. How to integrate the rose and the thorn. Yeah, the rose and the thorn. And this is a song that I wrote in New Mexico, and it's called Something'll Come, and nothing else to say. Here we go. Windswept highways, eating and driving, the crooks of food bleeding, neon signs all across America, disease for a dime, but oh, how I'd like to know why the people still go hungry for the hamburger. Oh. Old country lane and the feeling's the same. Some don't care and some are pointing the blame. But all I ask of you is, do you know the name of your neighbors down the road? Oh, the ones growing food in the fields they hoed. What from them is from the seeds you sow. There's something to come. Something will come. Electric steel running railroad tracks, and we worked so hard that we're breaking our backs. And one of these days you're gonna lose your slacks, and then oh, how you'd like to know your neighbors living down the road. Reassure the fields are no longer fallow, with each plant growing, doing the old hip-hop. to an empty pharaoh, just a puppet king that's putting on a show. Yeah, something will come, yeah. Oh, yeah. Something will come, yeah. Something will come. Okay, so this one is called Dead Roses, Dead Roses, and it was randomly inspired by the old Batman movie where Two-Face sends some dead roses to a somebody in the movie, and they're just in her face, and that's where it's from. Oh, dead roses under your noses. Oh, red roses under the noses of speakers on stages, lying their praises of gurus and sages, training their gazes to God, to God, to God. Oh, head roses, death poses round the headstone that shows us red overdoses. The grave now encloses the body that bore the soul I adore. Damn the rapturous whore who stole away the one I am that I am. Oh, I am that I am. I am more than I am. Ring around the rosy, a pocket full of posy, ashes, ashes, we all fall down. My head closes when your memory imposes the time it was closest. Before sun up the fog, as if in a fog, I was talking to God in the shape of a cloud rising up, rising up, rising up, rising up. It's time to rise up. And this last one is one that I heard it in my head while riding a bus, and it's a simple chant song. It's meant to be sung in a group, so you can feel free to join in when you get the words down, and just we'll kind of jam out together. All right. And it's called Invocation.
like a flood. My heart is radiating golden light. Come into me like a flood. My heart is radiating golden light. Come into me like a flood. My heart is radiating golden light. Will come into me like a flood. My heart is radiating golden light. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Come into me like a flood. My heart is radiating golden light.